gets worse, it's delusional. I feel like I'm the president of the United States, and my brother's the queen, the king of England. Um, that's a delusion. If people say, no, it's not true, and I keep holding to it, that's a complete lack of insight. Or people, you see these TV shows where people get up and sing and they're terrible, and people say, like, you're terrible, and they think, no, I'm really great. That's near delusional. So denial is a type of thing. I don't know, I'm sure some of you guys have been in this situation. You tell somebody that their spouse or best friend is dead, and they say, oh, okay, when can I see them? Just total denial. They just don't hear it at all. But it can also come out in more typical ways: self-righteousness, being a know-it-all, not listening to other people, ignoring good advice. Now I want to do an experiment with our group here. So this is word completion. You can do it in your mind. If you have a piece of paper, just write it down. So these are prompts. There's a first letter, and then come with the first word that comes to your mind. So S blank blank, C blank blank. Just go through that list and come up with some words. The first ones that pop into your mouth and brain. And if you can, write them down. If you can't, just try to remember vaguely what you wrote. The last one's probably the hardest, right? The longest letter. Okay. So there's no right answer, but here's a list that some person did. So what do we think about this person that wrote this? Sad, cut, cage, mate, murder. You guys have any feelings of what this person is thinking or doing? What if you give that list to a group like us? We'll generally say there's something wrong with this guy or gal. Like they have some problems, and the more words you get on these longer lists, the more concerned you might be. So here's another one. If you compare these two lists, sit, cat, calm, minute, these are sort of benign, kind of nice words. So this person's probably happy. But if I ask any of you, what do your words mean? You'd say, oh, they don't mean anything. They're just the first things that popped into my mind. They have no meaning. And that's probably much, much closer to the truth. When they do these studies, they don't correlate to people's personality or their situations. It's just random crap popping in their mind. But if you look at these lists and you compare them and you think, oh, this person's got problems, we think we have a lot of insight into that person's list, when in fact, if you ask them, they'd say, doesn't mean anything, it just popped into my mind. So these are the caveats with insult, or things that we need to be aware of. Each person generally believes that they have much better insight to themselves than anyone else. Like, I know myself better than you, I'm not taking your advice. We believe that's why your best friend can date somebody who's just a total nightmare, and you're like, God, just break up with that person, and they just don't listen. We believe we have better insight into other people than they do to themselves, so we can't both be right. Okay, this is a way to think about this stuff. So this is a cross section. If you look what you know to yourself, what is known to others, and what is unknown to others. I hope this makes sense. So it's just a cross tabulation. So here is what's known to you, known to yourself, and known to others is just your public persona. That's what people see, and that's what you know they're seeing. That's your public open self. What you don't know about yourself, but other people know, are your blind spots. So other people might think, you might think like you're really outgoing, and other people might think, no, you're kind of shy. That's just one example. Or things you just don't get, like dating a girl that's terrible, or a man for that matter. Okay, so known to self, unknown to others, that's your hidden self. Those are your secrets, that's your internal world, those are your fantasies. That's, you know about it, but you just don't share it. And then there's the unconscious. You don't know about it, and other people don't know about it. And that's the world. A lot of that is sort of the world of psychology too, and Freud and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so here's just an example of a profile. So someone knows that they're friendly, outgoing, boisterous, funny, and other people know that, and you know that about yourself. But what you don't know is other people think you're obnoxious. So you think you're just funny, and they think you're obnoxious. So that's an example of unknown to others. I mean, unknown to self, but known to others. Or you're secretly in love with somebody, or you have some kind of fantasy. So you know that, it's a secret. And then there's the unknown to self, unknown to others. That's the unconscious, unacknowledged, maybe unbearable beliefs or urges, hidden memories, latent talents. Sort of the most of your brain is actually in that bottom right-hand corner by far. Okay, so the idea of this quadrant is you want to kind of move into the direction of the top left. You want your life to be more open and sincere. So if you want to hold a hidden self, generally it's better to be honest, accepting, genuine, and just live out in public. I mean, don't be crazy or obnoxious about it, but generally. This is one of the harder ones, and I think of all the arrows I'm going to show you, is probably the most important, is you want to get that unknown to you, known to others, to go into this box. You want to know it, and you want other people to know it. So if you finally realize, hey, I am obnoxious, you ought to know it, and then maybe you'll change your behavior. So, but then again, you want to keep some of that stuff for yourself. So if you know that you're like a secret Jew hater or something, and that people have been calling you on it, yeah, maybe you don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to embrace that and then start becoming a neo-Nazi or something. Okay, so then there's this unconscious world. So you kind of want to move it into your hidden self and then into your public self. So that's where Freud and psychology, but more importantly, spirituality, meditation, and deep human connection. It's hard to really know your unconscious world, which I think is important to know as much as you can and to uncover. It has to be uncovered spontaneously, is by making these deep connections with people. So that's that's kind of movement you want to make in your life in terms of increasing your insight. That's it. Now, how do I stop sharing? Thanks, guys.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Rosenbaum? If you have questions later on, you can type them into the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and you can ask. Without further, Sergeant Kristen, I can't even say your last name, but what Stapley said, let me reread that. What is the best way to gain this insight?
Gain insight into your subconscious, your unconscious mind. The best ways to do that are therapy is one way of doing it. So there's classic like sort of word connections and dreams and that kind of stuff, and just talking about things in depth is one way to do it. Other ways is there's insight meditation, where that's what you do. You sit down and do nothing but study your mind and how it works, and that can give you insight. And the deeper you get into a meditation, more stuff kind of bubbles up. And I also think spirituality, spirituality has a very big place, and depending on how you turn to it and how you relate to it, if it becomes very personal, that is a way to bring some of that stuff up. Sort of the epiphany kind of thing. And then the other way is to same thing, but with just in a secular manner, really dive into relationships, really try to get to know the other person and have them get to know you. And the more intimate and closer you get, the deeper you go down into yourself. And the deeper you go down in yourself, that stuff starts bubbling up spontaneously. That's a great question, and one that has plagued psychology for about 100 years. So great.